Next up in my weapon videos is going to be Seg's weapon. Now Seg's weapon was heavily anticipated for quite a long time. He was actually stated to be listed several months ago now in a previous update, and his release was delayed for whatever reason. And a lot of people are excited for him, mostly because there was an expectation that he would serve as a source of base attack to every troop type in the game, and this is actually true. So he was released as a total stat weapon, which we knew in advance, and he can roll all 4 base attacks. So if you're running Imp, Cav, Spear, or Bow, you can obtain Seg's weapon and get the base attack you want on it. So he therefore has a very universal use as a result, and for mid-tier players especially, pretty much everyone is going to want to get this weapon because it is such a cheap source of base attack. If you're running Mono Imp, for example, you've only got Needle, which is very hard to get, and then Oath as free-to-play means to get Imp base attack. You have to recharge for Haley's weapon. It's the same for Spears, you only have Arslan's weapon now, and it's the same for Cav, where you only have Rob's weapon. You can get the recharge ones and some cheap ones here and there, but decking out your commanders with 3, 4, 5 sources of base attack for your mono formation is very difficult. And Seg's weapon really has a role to play in equipping mid-tier formations to be better. Now, I have a Discord channel enabled, going over all the specifics of his 4-star. I compare it base weapon to 4-star, and I also have a chart here going over how long it will take to unlock him according to how quickly you're buying him. So if you want this chart, you can just screenshot up the video right now. You see here on the right it is exceedingly long to get it to max, which you'll pretty much only be wanting to do for the passive army size he'll be providing. So max accounts and whatnot will likely want to be grinding this long term, purely for that 5,000 army size. For most players, you'll want to be looking at this left-hand column, unlock to base. If you're spending 60 BD a week on the all free purchases option, it will take you 50 days if you don't have any hoarded amethysts to unlock it to base. And you'll see my TLDR down here. Generally, when I look into all the specifics of his weapon, I would probably say the best thing to do for most people is just unlock it to base, get base attack on it, and then just leave it, unless you want to consistently spend over a very, very long period of time to get the 4k or 5k army size. Realistically, for 4.3k BD, 5k army size isn't the worst value in the world, but it's a very, very prolonged investment, of course, so unless you're in that pay bracket, it's not worth it in my opinion. And this will probably be a recurring theme in this video, because this is something we're going to have to keep in mind all times with Seg's weapon, is Seg as a commander in PvP is terrible. Realistically, his stats are very middling in terms of the total stats he provides in a mono meta. He has no synergy attached to him at all, and the issue his 4-star ability has always had is it lasts for the first 10 seconds of battle, and the movement times at the start of the fight will therefore invalidate a large amount of that actual buffs he's providing. So normal attack starting will vary from situation. It could start at 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds, 6 seconds. It depends if you're fighting in Ultimate Tournament or AC, if there's a wall or for a city defense you've got to break through. It'll really vary. I'm gonna, for the sake of the maths here, use fighting starting at 5 seconds as an average. So when you actually math out what this is going to be providing you, so this is his base ability, when you take out the first 5 seconds, therefore accounting for the uptime, you find the uptime, the buff is lasting throughout what is left in the fight, which is this number here. You therefore divide the buff he's providing by the uptime, and you can therefore assign a value of Seg's base 4-star at less than 2% all total stats as an average value, which is really, really bad, and unless you're really scrambling for commanders, you should never really be using him at all. When you get his weapon to base, that will be increased quite significantly. That for a jump in what he's providing with his 4-star, this is actually huge in terms of a percentage increase, almost a 300% increase, but it's still not enough to be usable at all. And even when you go all the way to 4-star, which would be this ability here, when you put it through the uptime maths, you'll sort of be visualizing Seg as like a 50% total attack commander, which is okay, admittedly, but he's foregoing all synergy to be providing these extra stats. And if you're investing in a 4-star Seg weapon, there's no way you couldn't have invested that better to get a better lineup. So I could have lingered on these maths for a lot longer, but the TLDR of it is he still sucks. Even with his 4-star weapon, there will always be better alternatives unless you are a very, very low spender. But if you're a very, very low spender, you're not going to be getting to this point. So it's sort of a moot point. So the key thing of this weapon will be this point. The weapon will serve primarily as a base attack source for any synergy in the game. And there's a few things to note with this. So it's a total attack weapon, which previously we have seen has been 100 Reforge ores to reroll them. And you can also lock this to a specific attribute set, which will then put it to 250 Reforge ores to reroll it. Seg's weapon, it's only 40 Reforge ore rather than 100, despite being total attack. And you also can't lock the troop type of the weapon either. So if I just wanted to get infantry on this, there is no way I can lock it to that at all. I have to be rolling with all the bow base attack, the bow attack, the bow defense in the drop pool for the random attributes. There's no way to eliminate them whatsoever. So those both have their pros and cons, but the fact it's 40 Reforge ore should long term, especially with the Alliance boss now being a source of Reforge ore, make it a lot easier to roll something at least decent onto this weapon and make it usable somewhere in your formation. And I believe the reason it's 40 Reforge ore rather than 100, or at least my best guess, is the fact that Seg is an elite token commander, whereas stuff like Kevin and Annie and Julian are epic token commanders. So I assume that trend will be consistent, where just all elite token commanders will continue to be 40 to reroll, and all epic and legendary commanders will be 100 to reroll. And honestly, there isn't much more to say other than that. It's just, this chart is how long it would take you to unlock him. Unlocking a base attack source for just 150 BD, or 150 to about 430, is a lot better than any other form of base attack sources. So Kevin weapon would be an average value of 2000 BD before coupons. Same with Julian, same with Annie. So this is, at worst, like 5 times cheaper or something. So for mid-tier players, I would definitely recommend getting this. I would recommend chucking Alliance Boss Reforge ore to try and get base attack. It just might be a bit of a black hole for your Reforge ore for a while because of the fact you can't eliminate any of these off-build stats out of the potential drops.